We're live and now recording.
Thanks, Katie. Can we begin with roll call?
Yes. Mr. Antonio,
Here.
Mr. Badger, Mr. Bleefeld,
Here.
Ms. Kiavachi,
Here.
Mr. Frank, Mrs. Hayman,
Here.
Ms. Karianikis,
Here.
Dr. Morris, Mrs. Ginsburg,
Here.
Blake Zimmerman,
Here.
Sachi Mehta.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent, and 2 student board reps this evening.
Thank you, Katie. Would everyone now please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I'd like to welcome everyone to this January 9th meeting of the Wissahickon School Board. Looking at our agenda, you'll first see a list of our prior meetings. On December 5th, we had our reorganization and work session public board meeting. December 12th, we had an audit committee meeting, an Act 34 hearing, and a regular public board meeting. December 19th was our board racial equity oversight committee listening session in Ambler. And January 3rd was our communication committee meeting. We have a list of our upcoming meetings as well on the agenda. On January 17th will be our next board racial equity oversight committee meeting. On January 23rd is our policy committee meeting. January 25th, I'll be attending the MCIU Board of Directors meeting. January 30th is our next public work session, and February 6th will be our next regular public board meeting. Now we have a list of presentations for the evening. Should I pass the first one over to you, Jim? All right.
Thank you. The first of our presentation is a celebration, really. It's a celebration of academic excellence on the part of a number of our students who are at the North Monco Technical Career Center. And these students have recently been inducted into the National Technical Honor Society, which is quite an honor. And we're very, very proud of them. And frankly, all of our students at the tech school. Here with us tonight to help us celebrate these students and say a few words about them in the program is our guidance counselor from Wissahickon High School, Miss Antoinette Parada.
Good evening. My name is Antoinette Parada. I'm one of the school counselors over at the high school. I'm here tonight on behalf of Dr. Lynn Blair to present our National Technical Honor Society students. The National Technical Honor Society is an educational nonprofit that exists to honor, recognize, and empower students and teachers in career and technical education. Today, we will recognize 5 Wissahickon High School students who have been honored with this distinction. These students were selected based on their academic and technical achievement, citizenship, attendance, and behavior. JL Ansu is a dedicated junior in the advertising design PIEP program this year. JL is a wonderful asset to the program. She excels on a daily basis with her sense of design and art making ability. She is currently working on illustrating a phobia, an assignment that many of the students will encounter this year. She chose scopophobia, which is the fear of being stared at. She is painting an acrobat performing in a circus in front of a large crowd. We are excited to see how she continues to illustrate her artistic abilities and how she will weave her creativity into her future plans. Jim Lucas, a kind, diligent, and talented student, is in the mechatronics program of North Monco. He has displayed a consummate commitment to excellence. He sets personal challenges for himself and exceeds expectations with vigor. His high school counselor recalls Jim has sought out additional rigor in his schedule each year and now balances AP coursework in addition to his electrical and mechanical engineering program. To see Jim's work ethic met with an award for his character and commitment is wonderful. Jim now sets his sights on a post-secondary education in engineering. Sean Nardi is a dedicated senior in the computer integrated machining cohort and is being inducted into the National Honor Society for his 2nd year in a row. Sean was certain of his desire to attend North Monco upon first hearing of the opportunity his freshman year. By his junior year, he had sought out a PIEP seat and has continued with his competitive program his senior year. We are so very proud of Sean's continued efforts and commitment, both at the high school and at North Monco. Carson Pasco is a dedicated student who participates in the mechatronics program at North Monco. He truly enjoys learning and is a true student of his craft. He has advocated for himself throughout his high school to overcome adversity. He is a model student as well as a wonderful individual. He has future plans to enroll in a four-year college to study engineering with the plan to then join the Air Force. Kayla Weeks is a bright, positive, and industrious student who participates in the cosmetology program at North Monco. In addition to excelling academically, she's a member of the North Monco Skills USA program and has a part-time job at the AMC movie theater. Her school counselor recalls how Kayla has sought to take honors classes so that she can be more prepared for attending college. Kayla plans to apply to Westchester University. She is interested in learning about becoming an entrepreneur and has an interest in the beauty, real estate, and medical fields. Kayla is certainly an intelligent, talented, and ambitious young lady.
Thank you so much. And I know they couldn't be here with us this evening, but congratulations to each of them. Hopefully they're watching from home with their families. Do any other board members have any comments, questions?
Only a big congratulations to each and every one of them. It's an incredible accomplishment and they deserve not only here, but wherever they are, the honor of being selected and telling the world about what they've done. So I can't wait to see what they do in the future. Thank you.
Joe?
I was just going to say, I know that they are not here physically. They may be watching, but how about a round of applause for those 5 students?
Any other comments? Ronnie?
Jill got there first. I was going to say a round of applause. You did a great job.
Just to say thank you to you, Antoinette, for joining us and saying a few words. They were all invited. They're very busy as everybody, but very, very proud of our students. For sure. Thank you.
Presentation?
Our next presentation is on the topic of later school start and end times, which everybody knows we have been investigating and discussing for months now. As a matter of fact, we have, I see 3 students, but 2 at least were with us previously. I don't know. So we have Kaylee and Cade Niffen, and I'm sorry, I don't know the third name of who's up there, another accomplice. Welcome. So we have 3 students who you may have seen parts of this presentation previously, but the board want to invite these students back to reiterate some points and present again. So please welcome our 3 Wissahickon High School students. Thank you for being here.
Hello, we appreciate all of you coming out tonight. I'm Kylie Niffen. I'm a senior. This is my brother Cade, a junior, and Emma Evie, who's also a senior. We're here to speak on the benefits of pushing the start time later, and we all strongly believe that it would make a world of difference for our students. We should start off first with the facts. For every hour of sleep lost, the risk of feeling sad and hopeless increases 38%, the risk of considering suicide increases 42%, the risk of substance abuse increases 23%, and the risk of attempting suicide increases 58%. Not only that, but when you're awake for 18 hours or regularly getting only 6 hours of sleep, your brain functions as if you have a blood alcohol content of 0.05%. Considering the amount of student drivers we have, this could become very dangerous very quickly.
We are advocating for the 20 to 30 minute change in the schedule. We are aware that the benefits of a later start time would be greater if the start time were pushed back a full hour, but we know that this is likely not reasonable logistically. I would like to go over the recent survey conducted, which asked Wissahickon students, families, and staff about their opinions regarding the start time. We know from this survey that a majority of students did state that they would receive more sleep, and a majority of students also stated that they would not have to quit extracurricular activities if the start time were to be pushed back by 20 to 30 minutes. The survey also showed that parents are even more confident that their students will get more sleep under this start time and that their students would not quit their extracurricular activities. But as we know, the student respondents still have developing brains and may not be able to accurately analyze how they would react to a long-term change such as this. Therefore, we would like to show you some statistics and examples from another school that has changed their start times in order to address how these changes tend to impact students, staff, and their families.
So as reported on NPR in the 2016-2017 school year, a case study was done in Seattle on the effects of later school start times. The district's original start times were similar to ours, and they moved it back a full hour from 7:50 a.m. to 8:45 a.m. The report did not fail to mention that this was, quote, no easy feat. It meant rescheduling extracurricular activities and bus routes. To study the change, researchers looked at a group of 88 students taking the same biology course. The students wore wrist activity monitors and kept a sleep diary. The findings were significant. Instead of simply staying up later, bedtimes remained relatively constant, allowing students to gain back 34 minutes of sleep on average, boosting their total sleep each night from 6 hours and 50 minutes to 7 hours and 24 minutes, much closer to the recommended 8 to 10 hours of sleep for an adolescent. The study also found an improvement in grades and a reduction in tardiness and absences. And by the end of the study, students who attended the school with a later start got final grades that were 4.5% higher than students attending with an earlier start time.
After reviewing all the hard facts and figures, we thought it would be fitting to share why each of us are up here today, especially considering 2 of us aren't going to be attending this school when the time changes.
So for me, my freshman year during COVID, when we started back in with an 8:30 start time, is when I really started to notice a difference in my mood and general enjoyment of school. I was able to wake up right before the start of school because I didn't have to leave the house to get to my class. And I noticed that I was actually able to get to bed earlier with few hours of free time beforehand because I was able to get work done quicker and be more on task due to the amount of sleep and free time I was actually able to enjoy. Now with harder classes definitely become later nights, but these would certainly be offset by later start times when I would be able to get into a similar routine to COVID of waking up energized and actually able to sit down with longer attention span and get more work done quicker.
So I know in the post-COVID world, we've had struggles with mental health and substance abuse at our high school. I don't think that I think that is something that we're aware of. And I think it's different hearing about it in a boardroom versus experience it every day, either personally or with friends. And I know that this will not be the solution. It's not going to fix all the problems, but it's a solution. And I think if it can help, then it's necessary to try and find something to help with these issues in our school.
And as somebody who's gone through all 4 years of high school at the Wissahickon High School, I can say that it has been pretty difficult to kind of juggle life on such a small amount of sleep. Considering the fact that I'm going to be going off to college next year, I've been trying to understand how to balance, schoolwork, like work, a part-time job, extracurricular activities, sports, fitness, and just my personal life, friends and family. And there just simply isn't enough time in the day, and I find myself getting very little sleep, which then in turn hinders my academic ability and also my physical ability, and does make me, a little bit nervous to drive in the morning when I'm not feeling all the way up to it, but I don't really have the luxury of having parents that are going to be available to drive us to and from school every day. So yeah, I mean, the lack of sleep not only hinders my personal well-being, but also makes me worry about the safety of my brothers that I drive to and from school every day, and also any other student in the Wissahickon High School that is struggling mentally or academically. They're just simply not getting enough sleep to be able to combat that.
And finally, we didn't think that this presentation would be complete without addressing the overwhelming lack of support for a change in start times illustrated by the survey. We know that it is difficult and intimidating to change the status quo, but we hope that we have presented enough evidence today to show that the benefits of this change in the long run will outweigh the short-term obstacles. I think that the question of school start times is a question of your priorities as our school board. We urge you to prioritize the long-term mental and physical benefits for our students over the short-term comfort of the status quo. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm going to open up to the board. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Yeah, Rosetta, go ahead.
I have a question just about the study that you looked at. I think I missed it, but what was the study and what was the time that they used to change? What was the time change?
So the study was done on a school, sorry. The study was done on a school in Seattle, Washington. In this, recap of the study, they didn't show exactly what the school name was, but they changed their times from 7:45, I believe, to 8:45.
So a whole hour.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Debbie?
Mine are mostly comments. Thank you very much for coming here. Thank you for having the courage and the leadership to present what you presented today. That first slide was very jarring, but it is the truth. And thank you for sharing that. It is a really big decision. And I know personally, I have high school students and I've been really struggling with this very early start time and see the benefits of a change. It is, I loved what you said about how, looking at this long term, status quo is the easiest thing. Leadership is the hardest thing. And thank you for being leaders today. I'm so proud of you guys.
Thank you.
Ronnie?
I feel like we've been doing this for years already because we know each other. We've been on this. We've been talking about it. We know the science. We know the right thing. Let's see what we do.
Other comments? No, I did have one question. Your first slide where you gave those statistics, what was the source for that information?
I had done a project 2 years ago for a class in school, and I can provide you with the sources that I used. It was kind of like a bunch of tidbits that I had grabbed from a bunch of different studies that I had read.
Yeah, if you could pass along that information to the board, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, Seaman, thank you so much again for coming here tonight and presenting this information to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Right, we'll move on now to our Wissahickon High School monthly highlights.
Yeah, so to start, our December's theme in the high school was giving back. And so we had a couple different clubs do a couple different things for that. So the Youth Activist Club organized a Her Drive to help survivors of domestic violence. And they gathered materials like feminine products and they raised a lot of money for that as well. And they donated that to the shelter. And then another club, which is SAD, Students Against Destructive Decisions, collected over $300 in donations for Toys for Tots. And then coming up on Tuesday, January 17th, Student Council has planned a service event for students at Maddie Dixon Community Cupboard for MLK Day. And then just in general, we've started graduation planning, which is going to be on June 8th, but who's counting?
Just to add on to what Sachi was saying, during December, we also had college signing day for athletics. We had 13 senior athletes commit to their colleges for the athletics. We had Penn State, University of Notre Dame. We had a lot of good colleges, and it was really good to see some of the seniors commit to their athletics, and that was awesome. We also had our WHS band, strings, and orchestra winter concert. I was a part of the symphony orchestra. Everyone sounded really well, apart from me, but it was very good. We also had the Grateful Gram. It was run by Minithon, which is a club at Wissahickon. Basically, one student can purchase this bag of treats, and there's also an encouraging note in there, and the proceeds went to a childhood cancer organization called Four Diamonds, which is really good to see. Also, belongingness was another big idea during December at the high school. The district celebrated Hanukkah from December 18th through December 26th. We celebrated Christmas on December 25th, and then we also celebrated Kwanzaa on December 26th through January 1st. And another big thing is student-led tutoring. National Honor Society and STARS, which stands for Students Together Achieve Real Success, have partnered up with the ELT, which is Extended Learning Time, to provide additional support in areas such as math, science, history, English language arts, and world language. It is open every Tuesday and Thursday from 2:45 to 4:15. Students can come here if they are struggling in a class and have not only teachers help them, but also peers. Also, freshmen and sophomores and juniors are taking midterms for the first time ever next week. I think the seniors took them one time in middle school.
Freshman year.
So that's scary for a lot of the high school students. But Wisslink is hosting an event tomorrow after school in the library called Cocoa Cram, which is a time for freshmen to come study for their midterms while also enjoying a cup of hot chocolate and having the upperclassmen in Wisslink and NHS there for guidance and help them study for their midterms, because it's a scary thing, especially for freshmen. So, yep, December was definitely an eventful month. Thank you.
Wow, well, thank you for that update. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Joe?
Blake, I really love that the idea and the concept of students helping other students. I think, just that peer-to-peer support is really important, not just for the person receiving the support, but I think also there's benefits to the people giving the support as well. So those are great things to hear about at the high school. So thank you.
Any other comments, questions? No? All right, well, again, thank you so much for those updates. All right, we'll move on now to our first public comment period, where we'll allow a maximum of 5 speakers. Well, I'll say this, we typically allow a maximum of 5 speakers, but because there might be comments this evening on the start time topic, we'll allow comments for 30 minutes on that particular topic. Please note that it's the board's practice not to engage in dialogue with speakers. When appropriate, follow-up responses will be posted on the district's website. And this first public comment period is only for agenda items. So please keep that in mind. All right, we have one person registered in person, Ron Stola. Welcome back.
Great to be back even as just a visitor. My name is Ron Stoloff. I reside at 151 Canterbury Lane, Bluebell. I served on the Wissahickon School Board from 2013 to 21. And as Ronnie mentioned earlier, we began to push for a revision of start times as we became aware of the science that showed that our schedule was causing real problems for middle and high school students, as our students told you earlier. We attended seminars and did research on the topic, and then constituted, and then the then constituted board was about to make the move toward revision of schedules when COVID-19 struck, sending us back to square one. After I retired from the board, I joined the committee that was to investigate a change in start times. I say to our board members, our job as school board members, excuse me, I just had a flashback to when I was on the board there for a moment. Your job as school board members is to do the best we can, or you can, for our students. Not for teachers, though they must be considered. Not for parents, as surely they must be considered as well. And certainly not for our administrators. Students must be our first concern, your first concern. And a later start time for our high school and middle school students is a given, as every study of adolescent sleep cycles, as you saw, tells us that the start times we've been using are almost the worst possible schedule you can conceive of for their age group, as their circadian rhythms are such that they generally can't get to sleep before midnight, no matter what time they go to bed. And waking up at 5 in the morning catches them in the middle of vital REM sleep and creates a scene that every teacher and student recognizes. They are just not ready to learn in a class that starts at 7:50 in the morning. Sleepiness is just one of the most obvious symptoms. Why? Our students are not getting the 8 to 9 hours of sleep their brains and bodies require. Our start times are cruel and unusual punishment for our students, and we must do the right thing by them. We must start school an hour later than our present schedule requires. Will the change cause disruption? Certainly. Will the change make some staff members unhappy? Certainly. Will the change make some parents hostile to the board members? Most certainly. But think back to my early remarks as to your responsibility toward our customers, our students. You're putting them through the ringer, a ringer that serves no educational purpose, but was instituted for the convenience of adults, that results in damage to the people you swore to support, our students. I therefore request that the board do the right thing and adopt a later start time for our middle and high school students. Now, will large groups of groups of
Ron.
parents appear at board meetings with the veritable pitchforks and torches? One second. Yes, they will, but you must do the right thing. Thank you.
Sorry, Ron, I didn't mean to cut you off, but time was up. All right, Katie, is there anyone else registered? Okay,
Yes, we have one speaker on Zoom, Jen R.
okay. Jen R, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And Katie, you got 3 minutes.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was just giving a call in. I mean, good job by the kids for making their presentation, good presentation and all. I just want to say, like, the study that they're comparing it to, we're not really comparing the same things here. I know they did their research and took time to put everything together, but that study was based on changing everything a full hour, and that's not what we're proposing here. Any change that you guys decide to make now is only going to change by, 20, 25 minutes or 40, 45 minutes. So it's a whole different thing. So it was a great presentation and all, but it's not apples to apples. We're not looking clearly at the same exact kind of change. There's no other studies to back up showing what has happened at this school after the change that I've heard either. The other thing, when the kids were in school for COVID and everybody got a taste of starting school at 8:30, yes, they were able to sleep later, roll out of bed, pay attention, do their schoolwork at 8:30. But you have to also remember, these kids did not have any teams to go out and play for that day. They didn't have to get to their practice. They didn't have to get to their jobs. They didn't have to do anything else except for focus on the schoolwork. So again, I mean, yes, they got to start late and it was more relaxing and able to pay attention, but they didn't have on their plates what they have on their plates now. They do have to go to practices after school every day if they're on sports, which close to 600 kids out of 1,500 something in the school are in sports. It's close to 40% of the kids in the high school alone, just the high school, not the middle school, that are in sports, that will have to leave school early. Now, when they leave school early with a later start time, they're going to miss more school. So there's a good 500 and some kids, close to 600 kids that are going to be really impacted by a change if one were to happen. I don't know if anybody's thought about that. And then, I mean, the costs affiliated with this, raising the budget 270, whatever, 380, whatever it is. I mean, has anyone consulted taxpayers on that? Whippane Township, Ambler Borough, Lower Gwinnett Township. I mean, it's not just people with kids to think about here. You got a whole community that you're going to go and make this change, even though the majority of those polled were not in favor of any change. The majority of those polled were not wanting a change, but yeah, this is still being pushed. I understand some kids want it. I do understand. If I were going to school now, I'd love to go in late, but we're not thinking about how this is going to affect everybody. I mean, you're going to be changing rush hour times. You're going to be needing bus drivers. What if bus drivers are doing that job as a second job? You could lose people in the process. You could lose teachers in the process because they can't care for their own schedules. It's really, I don't understand why it couldn't be left alone after the poll. It seems like this is trying to be pushed on us, even though it's people have spoken, the parents, the teachers, students, put it all together. Most don't want to change. and y'all are still sitting here trying to push a change. And
Jen, I'm going to stop you also. Sorry. I know everybody wants to talk longer than 3 minutes tonight, but I have to stop you also. And we'll have a second public comment period if you'd like to sign up for that one.
Okay.
Katie, is there anyone else registered? Okay, who's next?
We have Veiled Diamonds.
Okay, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, hi, how are you guys? My name is Saida Settles, and hello, hi, how are you? My name is Saida Settles, and I am a 4th grader at Stony Creek Elementary. And I would like to speak on the school times going back for the high school, because I also have a high schooler as well. The school times going back for the high schoolers and middle schoolers. I think that would be an excellent move to make, because the children are what matters. And even though it would be an inconvenience for some parents, we do have to look at the convenience and the mindset that it would be for these children. And even if they have extracurricular activities, they can still do their extracurricular activities at later times. The school's getting out at 2 something, so it will be getting out at 3:30. So they can just go straight from school to their extracurricular. And yes, it may have the parents having to do a little bit more, but our job, our purpose here for our children is for our children. So if we have to move around in other areas to make sure that our children have the best outcome for their mental health, then that's priority. My next concern that I wanted to talk about was bullying. And it's starting at a very early age, as I'm experiencing bullying with my.
You know what? I'm
4th
so
grader.
sorry. I'm just going to cut you off right there. Unfortunately, that's not an agenda item. Do you have anything else that's on the agenda for the evening?
Oh, I thought that on the agenda, it was the disparities of discipline, of racial discipline. The disparities of discipline and racial. That wasn't
No,
on the agenda.
I don't believe that's on the agenda.
It
We have a
says that
second
it was.
public comment period, and you're welcome to, put your name in for that one as well and comment during that period.
Okay, but is that on the agenda?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Do you have any other comments though related to agenda items?
Well, in reference to the pushback of the time, I think that it's an excellent idea, and I think that we should put our children first and what they need as far as health, mental stability. I saw suicide on there as one of the effects, and that's cringing, to say the least. And that's already at an all-time high. So I think that our children's mental health is much more important than anything else. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And please make sure you stay on, because I would like to hear your comments on bullying. So please wait till the second public comment period, and you can share those at that time. Katie, is there anyone else registered?
Yes, we have one person registered in person. Oh, for the second comment, never mind. Okay. Right now on Zoom, we have Kara Finn.
Okay, Kara, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
There we go. Sorry, I'm on my phone. I just had Kara Finn, Lower Gwinnett Elementary, 2 kids in elementary school. I just had a really quick comment. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, the timer didn't start, so I was wondering. So I know I said this in email, but I wanted to put it into public comment during one of your meetings that I recently learned that a neighboring school district has about a 20-minute shorter day for high school. I'm not sure about middle school. And I know that the length of the school day wasn't considered, because that's another huge thing to look at. And it feels like that this decision is really important for our students. And if there is more information that could make it less painful to make a change that also really benefited the student body, I think it's worthwhile to take additional time to investigate creative solutions. So I know that the board has set out kind of a timeline of making a decision for next year in the next month or so. But if you don't have all the information, because I mean, to be fair, it's a lot of information to go through. I think it's worth taking the extra time needed to make the decision. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Katie, is there anyone else registered? Okay, who's next?
We have John S.
John Hess. S, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is John Shanter in Lower Gwinnett. I have a student in the middle school and the high school. I'm not sure where this vote will end. It looked like from the surveys that there's not a lot of support for this. And like the last person just mentioned, maybe if continued consideration is out there for shortening the school day and some other things. One thing I would like to ask also be considered, we're talking about starting the school day later. As it stands, I don't know if if everyone's aware, there are a number of athletic activities that actually start even an hour before school. So we're getting a lot of those kids up even an hour earlier than what we're even talking about. So if we could start anywhere, just starting there to try and restrict that time, I think would benefit a lot of the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie, is there anyone else?
There are no more speakers on Zoom.
Okay, and we have no more in person. So we will move on then. Next is the board president report. I just have an informational item this evening, and that is the board committee list, which you'll see at document 61A. And there haven't been too many changes on that, but that is where that's located if you'd like to take a look at that. Next, we will have our superintendent report.
Thank you. The one item I have tonight is the first of what will be 3 updates on our district goals and priorities that we, as you recall, set at the beginning of the year, and we like to periodically revisit them so that they remain on the front burner, but also remain as a source to guide us for our priorities and time spent on researching and deliberating. So the first of our goals, you may recall, was to finish the 2-year process of examining options for later school start and end times. So we certainly addressed that in part tonight, and we will continue to address that, including next public meeting, which is on January 30th. So we are definitely making progress towards that. The second goal was to create a data dashboard on the district website that will be designed to track over time the key equity indicators that don't necessarily themselves directly reflect achievement, but we know are very much related to it and set the stage for it, such as belongingness, enrollment in certain special education, or gifted, that sort of thing. So we are definitely making progress towards that dashboard, and it will be up by the end of the school year. We've had some other things on our plate, primarily goal number 1. So we're going to get to the dashboard next. The third goal was to create a data dashboard for those indicators that do directly reflect achievement, such as maybe standardized test scores, flawed as they might be, grades, on a roll, GPA, that sort of thing. And that's the same thing. It's going to be housed in the same place. It's going to be called an equity dashboard. So it'll have the indicators we talked about previously, plus these achievement ones. And that is or on track to be finished by the end of the school year. District 4 was to continue to refine the plan for addressing the enrollment increase in the Bluebell Elementary School zone. And we have definitely made really good progress with that. Wade and his team have come to us with, along the way, stages of architect design schematics, and we're moving forward with that. That won't be necessarily, of course, won't be completed this school year, but that was a goal to get the plan in motion, and it's definitely moving in the right direction. And then the 5th area, which is priority area, which is communication, had kind of 2 goals. The first was to finish the systematic review of the district's policy manual. And I'm happy to report we are making progress on that. It's kind of like watching paint dry sometimes, but it does make a big difference. It's important work, and we are making progress on that. And then the other part of that was to convert the district's website And Zephy will have some words for us later tonight on that, the communications committee report. But I think, and I won't spill the beans, but we're making very good progress on that as well. So we're on focus. Nothing is off track. And I'm very proud of the work that the team is doing because it helps us prioritize our efforts in addition to the district focus.
Great, thank you, Jim. Does anybody have any questions or comments? No, all right, well, thank you again. We'll move on now to our assistant superintendent report, Dr. Juan.
Thank you. No informational items and no action items this evening.
All right, thank you. We'll now move to our board solicitor report. Michelle?
Hi, good evening. I don't have any informational items, but I do have 2 action items. They are 2 settlement agreements that we reviewed at the previous meeting. I'm looking for a motion to approve those agreements.
Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Great, a motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. All right, we'll now move on to our board secretary report. Wade?
Thank you very much. There's no informational item, and the action items tonight are requesting approval of the December 5th, December 12th audit committee meeting, the December 12th regular public meeting, the December 19th board racial equity oversight committee meeting, and the January 3rd communication committee meeting minutes. So we're requesting approval of action items 10B1 through 5.
So moved.
Second.
Right, the motion's been made and it's seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Wade. And board treasurer report?
Thank you very much. There is no informational item, and we're presenting for acceptance and minuting the treasury report for November 30th, 2022 for document 11-1. And the motion is approval of action items 11B1.
So moved.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Right, motion passes. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much.
We'll now move on to our human resources report. Danielle?
Good evening. Tonight, there are no informational items for your consideration on the Human Resources Report or action items 12B1 and 2. These include a resignation, appointments, changes of status, leaves of absences, extracurricular changes, and volunteer additions. This evening, I'm seeking approval for action items 12B1 through 2. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion's passed. Thank you. We'll now move on to our communications committee report. Zephy?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. I have a couple of updates. We did meet right after the new year, the communications committee, to talk about both the website and the later school start times. I'll start with the website. So the team has made some really great progress. I know Kristen's not here, but kudos to her and Michelle, right? The woman who works with her, Sue. I'm so sorry, Sue. They've done a lot of work. They're going to make a recommendation to stay with our current website provider, which is Final Site. So it'll look totally different, but the back end is going to be still Final Site, which is who we know and who've been using for the past 3-4 years. This new redesign package comes with a couple of great new features. Not only will it have these new themes and custom designs and it'll look very pretty, but there's also going to be a lot of functionality. A lot of UX was taken into consideration for this. It's mobile responsive. So if you look at it with your mobile phone, you will be able to find everything much easier than right now because we are not that mobile friendly right now. They've streamlined the navigation so that you could get through and to different parts of the website in a better fashion. They'll add new pictures. They have like a new search bar where you can kind of find things a little bit easier. And the two really, really cool things about the website is There's a new accessibility tool. So if you have visual impaired or any kind of accessibility issue, it will kind of correct for that. And then it'll have a translation tool, which like it comes like with a whole array of languages, so you could translate the website straight into that language. So hopefully these things will make everybody in our community be able to find the information they're looking for and accessible. The timelines, we talked about that. This spring, this year, they're going to be kind of finalizing quite a few things. It will first go through Kristen and Sue, and then it'll come to the communications committee, and then it will come to the board members. We're looking to have it done by the beginning of this summer, and then it will have a soft launch and then a full launch in right before the school year. There are some costs associated with this. It is all been accounted for in our budget, but for transparency's sake, we have a redesign fee of $17,000. That's a kind of one-time fee to move to this new platform and this new design. And then we have annual costs. The contract right now is 5 years, which is customary. That's what we currently have with Final Site. So that's what we have been doing. So that's not different. So year one will be 25.9K. The second year, 26.5K. Year three, 27,050. Year four, 27,620. Year five, 28,200. There's two kind of additional costs that we haven't had in the past, and they're nominal, but I do think they're worth it. It's that accessibility tool and that translation tool. They're kind of like add-ons that we're adding onto the website that they have their own kind of annual fee that's kind of built into that price that we just looked at or talked about. So that's kind of the high level. She did show us some kind of great examples from other websites that use this platform, and it looks really, really great. So I'm excited to see what our Wissahickon one is going to evolve to. Any questions before I move on that? And then, as you know, we have been having these communication updates. So the fourth one just went out this past Thursday, January 5th, and it had kind of it outlined all the kind of steps that we've had till now and what we are moving forward with. And the community is, and we have asked in our updates to continue to put in their posts on our websites for if they have any additional feedback, and that it's still an open forum for people to comment through that vehicle as well. That's it for me.
Great, thank you, Zephy. Any comments or questions?
I have a comment or a question about the ongoing survey that's open. Do we identify individuals who are posting multiple times?
Oh, sorry, it's not, they're not responding to the survey. They can put in comments. I apologize for not being clear. No, my bad.
Zephy, so I do have a question.
Yeah.
So comments that I've seen posted online suggest that people lack an education about what really is the purpose behind changing the start times. Like we saw these statistics this evening, and like I see people posting, where's the science? Where are the facts? Like, what can we do from a communication standpoint to share out more of that information? Because I don't know if everyone in the community really truly understands the reasons why we've been looking at this for over a year.
I mean, it's a great question, Amy. I mean, I think, the school administration has done everything that I thought of. Like I asked for town halls, we did them. We asked for more communication, we did that. We've put a dedicated page with resources. It's up there. I honestly don't know, because if you do look at the website, you come to the town halls, you come to the school board meetings, you would learn all this information. So I don't know what else, like we can bring a singing clown. I don't know. I mean, from a communication perspective, I feel like we've done push and pull, which from like a communication perspective, that's both avenues, like push and pull, like I'm unsure what else we could possibly do. I'm like, do you guys have any other ideas? Like, what haven't we done?
I think we just live in a world where people are looking for confirmation bias and look at data the way they want to look at it. And I don't know if we can do much more at this point. I don't know. I mean, the comment tonight was full of just misinformation, and I don't know what to do sitting here being like, no, that's not right. Wait, hold on. But I don't know. I don't know how to respond to that. We're looking at the same thing, yet seeing two totally different things, I guess. I don't know.
And the resources that are on our website, how does someone navigate, like, if you could share with the community, how do you navigate that section of the website to get that information?
Well, if you go through, the newsletter has actual links to that website. So if you're going in through that website, through the newsletter, it should be very seamless. Now, if you're coming in through the website, I actually have to think about it. You probably have to click around a little bit, but it is part of our banner. So it shouldn't be that terribly hard to find it. If you want to find the time to look for it, you will find it.
Yeah, and Zephy, to that point, on the front page of the school district website, I mean, there's a big, banner thing there that clicks right to the main page with all the information. So it's there, pretty obvious if you want to look for it.
Great. So anyone that's watching at home, if you want to learn more about this, that's where you can go. It's just the homepage, Katie. That's where you are. And you can just click on that clock and it'll take you to more information. Katie, can you click on it again just so we can see what that page looks like and what sort of information is available? So great. We have a lot of resources, news articles. So yeah, anyone out there that is looking for this information, here is where you can come and find it and learn more about the reasons behind why we're looking at changing the school start times. All right, was there any other questions or comments regarding Zephy's report?
Just one quick question, Amy, if I can. One thing that we haven't done yet is to implore any local experts on the subject, either whether a neighboring school district that has been through this process before, whether it be health professionals that have studied this and have some practical knowledge and experience with it, that may be able to talk with us either remotely over Zoom or even come in and address us in person. For those who have very stretched and challenging schedules as it is, they may not all have the liberty to go on the website and actually seek out this information, unfortunately. So if there's someone that might be able to share that firsthand with us where people can hear it and potentially ask questions, that might be helpful, as opposed to us just relying on people to seek out the information, even if it's available. I do think that having direct correlation with a neighboring school district that has gone through this would be very helpful, whatever their experiences may be, to actually hear from them and maybe have them share some of those pros and cons that they experienced, which may be directly applicable to what we're considering. So again, people have more of a apples to apples comparison to be able to make an informed decision. I know it's asking a lot. I know it's not necessarily easy to find these individuals, but if they exist and if they're available, I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think, having experts share and other people who've gone through it share their experiences is another level. I know our administration and part of the team has had those one-off conversations, but it was not public. So maybe having them in a public forum would also help. with the information gathering. I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, Marcia, go ahead.
I think Paul has a very good point, and one of the concerns I have was raised by others tonight is we have to make a decision rather quickly because the goal is to, if there's a change, to do it in the fall. But as with anything we do, is it the right time? Is it based on all of the information and evidence that we need? And Paul's point is a good one. I know we've raised that issue before of finding out what others are dealing with that in that circumstance, because if we make a change, we're not going to be going back in a year if we think that really wasn't a good idea. And so this is a big decision. And this is one of the problems I've been having with this issue is it's a really big decision. Whether you think 20 minutes is no big deal or 40 or 50 minutes is no big deal, it affects everybody in this district, whether it's student, teacher, parent, administrator, whatever it may be. And it also affects all the other surrounding issues that we deal with in our school district. You take the research, you take the surveys, you take all of the information that we have, but we need real world data. Everybody's going to find some research that supports what they would like to do. Those who don't like surveys are generally the ones who believe that the result is skewed not in their favor. So I think that is a good one, because if you look at the school districts that have made a change, I believe it's Radnor and Phoenixville. Jim, am I correct on that? They may have made a change in their time, but if you look at the change in their time, they pushed things back, but they also contracted the day. They shortened the school day, it looks like, from what I'm seeing here. Another data point to look at. And that's something that maybe we need to consider as well. And maybe we don't yet have the time to do that if we're making a decision in the next month or so. But those school districts who we should hear from to find out, just as Paul said, how's it going? How are people feeling about what you did? Not only the students, but everybody else who's impacted by it. And finding out if simply moving it back is the answer, or is it moving it back and shortening the day? There are lots of variables here that I still think we need more answers to. And you have to look at the totality of the circumstances. And we're not living in a vacuum. So I think we need more answers. And I think we really need to get that information if we can in the next meeting or so, find out what the real world effect is on everybody. And one, is it beneficial or not? Is it working or not? What do you feel about it or not? And I think Paul had the nail right on the head on that one. And I think that's a great idea.
And I would not either like to see the board rush to a decision on something. So I agree, like, it sounds like we need more information. It sounds like, we also need to not just gather more information, but we also need to educate our community possibly more. And, if other board members feel that this is rushed and we shouldn't be voting in February, which I understand we would need to in order to set things up for September, but maybe then we don't rush into voting in February. We gather more information and we look at it for possibly next year.
And the other thing too is, everybody may be sitting at home going, are you kidding? You've been looking at this for so long. But when you look at it, it really hasn't been all that long, because when the idea was first raised, as Ron Stoloff said, we hit a pandemic. That sort of reset a lot of different things that we were doing. And maybe things didn't get the attention they needed because we had to focus on other things. And we do have to focus on other things. There are other things in this district that need attention. But everything that I'm hearing, the questions I'm being asked, everything from how it's going to affect people personally, to our students, to families, to how we're going to pay for this, and how it's going to affect people financially, or the district or the community financially, to how this is going to play out. Really, in terms of time, it's not all that much. And while everybody's saying you're wasting time, you have the survey results, we want to get it right. I mean, that's what it comes down to. We want to make sure we make the right decision for everybody, no matter what it is. I haven't made my decision at this point, because I think there's a lot of information. We've been inundated with information and opinions and all different things like that. And I think the more we have, the better off we are to make that decision. People talk about maybe we'll be the pioneers, the cutting edge. Well, that may be, but we don't want to do it and not do it the right way. So I think that's sort of what we need to do as well. Not reset, but ensure that we make the right decision at the right time.
You would be in favor with pushing it off.
I'm in favor of getting all of the information and finding the answers that people need to make a decision. If we can do it within the time frame we've currently set, so be it. But if we can't do it, I don't want to go or put the board in a position, because remember, we're the ones voting ultimately. Do we want to be in a position of saying we voted on something without having all of the information, all of the answers we need? And there are some basic things that Paul just raised. I mean, that's a basic piece of information. How does it affect other school districts? We know California is the only state that has mandated it, and it's a statewide mandate. Other cities have done it, but that's a citywide. In our community, it's a district here or a district there. And they're changing the dynamic, not just with moving things back, but maybe contracting things. These are all things that we should look at.
How do other board members feel?
Yeah,
The upcoming
so
vote?
you want to go around? You got it.
Connie, go
You
ahead.
were hogging it.
It's okay.
I couldn't get my hand on it. That's me. There is a woman, Dr. Wendy Troxel, who is asleep. Is her main thing. She is a senior behavioral and social scientist at Rand. And I heard her speak. I've been on this committee. I went to Radnor for several meetings. She has a TED Talk that would be beneficial for everyone here to watch. And we should probably use something like that for more information. Wendy Troxel, TED Talk.
Is that something we can look at adding to that site, Jim? Oh, right,
We
right.
could add a link to a publicly available TED Talk. I think that would be all right, but I don't know about, you're not suggesting inviting her here. Okay.
I'll be glad to
Okay.
call her and say hi.
I think watching a TED Talk is, it's all right.
Deanne, you had a comment?
Yeah, so I agree with what Marshall says. When you look at the two districts who've done this, they have condensed their day. And, you know, when you look at the survey results, you know, if you kind of put them together, 55% of parents are in favor of some sort of change. Great. Students, it's more split, but, you know, we make decisions for our kids that we think is best for our kids. The one that gives me pause is the teachers. And 80% are in favor of keeping it the way it is. And that really gets me because I feel like it's really important that the teachers are happy and we're not making that many upset. And so what can we do to, I guess, one of my questions is, what are the teachers, what's the main concern of the teachers? And what can we do to alleviate that concern? In my mind, shortening the day would probably do that. And that would make it more favorable for them, more favorable for our students, because majority of the concerns I hear is not regarding the morning, it's regarding the afternoon time and cutting into after school activities. And so that would alleviate those concerns. Is it risky to shorten the day? Yeah, maybe, but if it's like, what's best for our kids, I feel like that's what we need to do. And so Amy, to answer the question, are we in favor of pushing the vote back? I'm in favor of, I think this is best for our kids, but it would be hard for me to vote yes, knowing so many teachers are against it. And so for me, I want to say, how do we take this diamond in the rough and make it shiny and show it to the teachers to say, hey, yeah, that looks good, right? I feel like we've just been saying, here it is, and here's all the bad stuff that comes with it. How about here it is, and here's what we're going to do to fix the bad stuff. That's kind of what I'm looking for in this, because otherwise I live in Ambler Borough. I have 2 third graders who at 11 years old and 6th grade are not going to have a bus and are going to walk to school in the dark every morning starting at 6:45. And I just don't think that's safe for them. I would love for them to be able to walk to school in the light, and that's for all Ambler Borough kids. I would like for kids to be able to get the bus in the light. I think that'd be really nice. And so this goes beyond sleep for me in some ways, but I'd like to make it attractive to our teachers. That's a concern of mine.
Dan, other comments, Paul?
Just a quick question about shortening the school day. And I know, Jim, the administration is already looking at different options for extending recess time. And I know that's been a challenge, but that's in the works. I'm curious if you happen to know offhand, is shortening the school day even realistic at this point, given the other things we're considering? Or is that on the table? This is the question.
Sure. I don't know if I can answer realistic or not. It definitely cannot happen for August. There's an incredible amount of variables that would need to go into the process of shortening the day. It starts with collective bargaining agreements and it goes from there. It also has to do with, like you say, what do we put into a day now? What do we want more of, such as recess? And then what would we have less of if we shorten the day? So all of that is a worthwhile conversation, but it would have to be at least a year off.
One thing to add regarding time, also at the state level, there are minimum requirements that all school districts have to comply with for school year, minimum number of school days, which is not the problem. But in addition to that, there's also minimum number of instructional minutes, especially at the high school level. So I'm not sure how close we are to the minimum required minutes, but that also is a factor if you're thinking about shortening the school day at any length.
I mean, so Phoenixville is 8:01 to 2:53. They must comply.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know where we are at. I'm just saying that that's something that has to be analyzed as well if we're going to consider shrinking overall school day.
So one thing to follow up, sorry, with your question about our teachers, and I'm with you, and we want to make sure our teachers are happy. But if you look at the question, I will need to resign from my current position and look for employment elsewhere, 2% said yes. I would say that this is not going to drive all of our teachers out of our doors. I really, I do think it's gonna, you take your watch and you switch it from one hand to the other, and it's gonna throw off your day, your week, your whatever. This is gonna throw everybody off. It's like you're gonna have to learn new habits, you're gonna have to rearrange things, you have to fix your childcare. This is not gonna be easy. If it was easy, we wouldn't be taking 2 years talking about it. So I don't want our teachers to be unhappy, but I also believe this statistic.
Any other comments? Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say something to respond to you, Ms. Morris. I know that when I talked to some of my teachers, a big thing that they were talking about was childcare, because I know that for teachers who have kids maybe who are older, or they don't have kids, whatever, they might get here at 7 and then they have the 30 minutes and then they leave school faster. But I know that for a lot of my teachers who have younger children who need childcare, they get here right at 7:30 or 7:25 because they need that time. They need to wait for their childcare to start. So I know that that was one of the main reasons that they wouldn't want the start time to be pushed back, because they wouldn't have childcare, and they would need to it would take a lot of energy and effort to figure that out and refigure it out.
Any other comments? Yeah, go ahead.
I do just want to comment on the proposed idea of shortening the length of the day. We already have between 50 minutes and 60 minutes per class in a usual day 1 through 4, while day 5 and 6 is a block day. And a good amount of people are taking AP college level courses, and sometimes 50 minutes to 60 minutes is already not enough time. And a lot of kids are already swamped with homework, and just less instruction time, even by minutes. I know it flies by in school sometimes. That could have a negative impact even on the kids. And it's just for shortening the day. I just want to point that out, that could have a negative impact.
Thank you. Any other comments? Questions? Okay, well, we will move on then to our Curriculum and Technology Committee report. Ronnie?
There are no informational items. Dr. Dewan has several action items to discuss.
Thank you. Yes, we have 4 action items this evening. We'll be seeking a motion for approval. For action item 1, we're seeking approval of our list of 353 graduates from the class of 2022, outlined in document 14-1. This is an annual item for board approval around this same time each year.
For action item number 2, we're seeking approval of tuition costs for outplaced services for 5 students as outlined in document 14-2. For action item number 3, we'll be seeking approval to adopt the elementary after-school reading and math program for this school year. It's a 12-week after-school program, which will start in February and will be offered to eligible students as an opportunity to target additional reading interventions for grades 2 and 3 and additional math interventions in grades 4 and 5. As a reminder, this after-school program is not designed to replace interventions provided to students during our school day. It's a supplemental resource for additional targeted interventions. And finally, for action item number 4, we all received a corporate grant from Lockheed Martin in the amount of $20,000 to fund new supplies and equipment for our Fab Lab at the high school. And so we'll be seeking approval to accept a donation from WeOff in the amount of $5,000 and then equipment valued at $15,000 for our high school Fab Lab. Just a note, because it's pretty cool. These supplies and equipment are going to expand the opportunities for our students in the robotics and computer integrated manufacturing courses. Students are going to learn to build and automate their work. They're already designing on the computer, and the new equipment will help bring that work to life in the classroom. Very interestingly, one of the $5,000 will be used to purchase a robot system, which will be an additional set for the Fab Lab. They already have one, so this will be an additional one, and they use this equipment to learn how to design, build, and automate an assembly line project. One example of a project is where students learn to program the robotic arm to make pancake batter, pour the batter, flip the pancakes, and place on a plate. So it's pretty cool. And then the equipment that we'll be accepting in the value of $15,000 is for a new CNC router for the FabBot. I'm hopeful that you don't have many questions about that, but, but it's used for modeling and fabricating computer designs. I can tell you that. So this evening, we're seeking approval of a motion to approve action items 14B1 through 14B4.
So moved.
Second. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, Facilities and Transportation Committee report, Joe.
Thank you. There are no informational items this evening, and we have 2 action items for consideration. I'm going to ask Wade to provide us some details on those, please.
Thank you. The first is in support of the high school turf project, and we need to do some testing of soils, and then depending on the results of those soil samples, that'll affect the bid. So it's an extra precaution as we get close to finalizing that. And then the second is just a straight, we need to fix it. It's $22,000 some dollars to fix the hot water main repairs at Bluebell Elementary Gymnasium. So it's not working and we need to make it work.
Thank you. So we're seeking a motion for approval of action items 15B1 and 2.
So moved.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll then move on to our Finance Committee report. David?
Amy, there are no informational items from the Finance Committee. We have 3 action items we're seeking approval for. First is approval of financial reports for document 16-1. Second is approval of the proposal from School Health Corp to furnish AEDs with pediatric pads in the amount of $27,907.20 per document 16-2. And the third item is approval of the list of payments issued for the month ending November 30th, 2022 for document 16-3. I have a motion.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions?
I have a, go ahead. You had a question?
Yeah, I had a question.
Go ahead, Debbie.
So who knows any details about these pediatric pads and like how many, like will it be enough? And then like if, I'm assuming you could swap them out. I know nothing about this. So like if an adult needs an adult pad, there's one available and vice versa. And we obviously don't have them at the high school because that would not be necessary. Like we've thought through these things, right? Yeah. Wait, said yes.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
think.
So Kathy Dearborn, one of our nurses, spec'd all this information. And my understanding is, and I believe that that's what's in the support as well, we're highlighting the pediatric because they are different. But each one of the ADs will come with both. It'll be for an adult or for a child, depending on the individual situation. So it's all encompassing and should work for any situation that we encounter.
My question was regarding, we already have these, though. Are these just being replaced at every building because you have to every 5 or 10 years or something?
It's the old equipment is about 7 years old and the recommendation was to get new ones.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Great,
Yes,
seeing none. Oh, go ahead.
Apparently the quote said that the pediatric pads aren't available at the moment. Did they know when they would be, or they speculate when they would be in?
Yeah, I don't have that information, but we will get them as soon as we can.
And are there a certain number per building, or they're kind of scattered strategically throughout the district?
It's B. So the high school is going to have more than, say, this building, but each building has them and they're distributed just like you would, think.
Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion's passed. Thank you. We'll move on now to our policy committee report. Marshall?
Thank you. There are no informational items this evening. However, we do have some action items. I'm looking for approval of the second and final reading of a batch of policies that we have reviewed, some of which are being updated. Some have no changes, but this is, if you will all recall, the 700 series have to do with property. So one has to do with our organizational chart. It's just adding a director of security, 3 title changes. The others have to do, as I said, with property, such as how it's distributed, such as phones or vehicles. There's one on disposal of property. There's one on a distribution of issued mobile phones, one on service animals. And so we've already gone over these a couple of times. We've reviewed them, and now I'm seeking approval of the second and final reading of action items B1 through 8.
So moved.
Second. A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions?
Is the miniature horse edition per like ADA guidelines? Was that a recommendation of our lawyer? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I never saw that. Okay.
Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we'll have the Racial Equity Oversight Committee. Paul?
Thank you, Amy. Just a quick update on the committee. On December 19th, we held our first of several to come listening sessions, which allowed for the community to gather and to give input, ask questions, give their experiences in terms of 3 primary categories that we covered that day. The 3 categories that we talked about were belongingness, the district response to racial discipline, and teacher staff diversity. We were very pleased with the turnout. There were some concerns going into the meeting that it fell very close to the holiday break. It also fell right in the middle of several holidays, including on a holiday. But very pleased to report that it was very well attended by the administration, board members, as well as many members of the community. The format was that we broke out into the small groups. Again, the 3 areas that I mentioned were covered in each group. Again, it was a listening session in which the community was encouraged and allowed to offer their input, as well as faculty, administration, and board members that attended, and of course, committee members. We received very good feedback from just about everyone who attended. people anxious for more and for additional opportunities to talk in this format, and we hope to be able to do that in the future. But I'd like to just give special thanks to the administration for coordinating, Dr. Crisfield, Dr. Dwan, and Kazaya Latour for putting everything together, and all else who participated in the effort to make it happen, as well as the community members, the committee members, and the board members who were able to attend. Again, I thought it was a phenomenal event. I don't know if Joe or David or anyone wants to add anything in terms of detail. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Ronnie?
I do. The group that I was with, I learned more from them. They talked and talked very freely. This is a problem, that's a problem. I really like this. It was really basic, just telling us what they thought and how things were going. Thought it was very valuable.
Thanks, Ronnie. I agree. It was also, I'll just add one more point. There was a great range of people who attended, from current students to alumni to, again, just members of the community that are local stakeholders that also very interested in the topics that were discussed. So again, I thought it was a great event. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I just want to say too, I echo what Ronnie says. It was really interesting to hear what is still happening to people and like things that they have to deal with. And they were very open and honest about freely talking about these things. So it was amazing.
Our monthly committee meetings are, of course, open to the public, but it's more of a one-way communication. The committee discussed the current topics. There's not an option for the community to be able to give their input. So this provided that in a format that I thought was very productive. So our next committee meeting, which will be virtual, not in person, as Amy mentioned in the beginning of this meeting, will be on January 17th at 7 p.m. So again, all are welcome to tune in to that meeting.
Great, thank you so much, Paul. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
I have a quick question, Paul.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
From the comments that we got from, what Ronnie and Rosetta was saying, are we able to take any of that and turn it into an actionable policy or improve ways we can improve the district or ways we can improve the experience for students who feel, I don't know, like they're not, safe or belonging or whatever? Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I think like a lot of the information that we heard in a lot of the dialogue, I think does have actionable items that can be applied to it. But it will be a part of the whole larger picture. We were working on many concepts and talking about many ideas that the administration, who are the experts in this, will figure out ways to incorporate and facilitate good solutions. So it's a work in progress, but yes, absolutely.
Any other comments? All right, again, thank you so much. All right, we'll now move on to our report of board representatives. Marshall, extracurricular.
There are no updates since my last update. We have not had a meeting since, so I will keep you updated once we have additional information from another.
Okay, thank you. And I'll have an MCIU report later in the month. North Monco Technical Career Center. Ronnie, anything? Or Zephy?
We don't have any updates at this point.
No, okay, thank you. PSBA liaison.
Day of Advocacy is, I think it's Tuesday, April 18th. I'm going to probably plan on going to Harrisburg again if anyone wants to join me, Amy. April 18th.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it last year.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was really good to meet with local representatives. Yeah, in addition to like hearing from PSBA, I would love to hear, Jim, are teachers allowed to like email me policy concern, like state law concerns that I could take to Harrisburg? Like, would they be allowed to get in touch with me so I could advocate for some of the things that they see and want?
It would probably be best to have that channeled through the union leadership.
Could we ask for that so that I could have some like actual things from our teachers to take to Harrisburg?
Yes.
Great. Anything else, Ian? Okay, then we'll move on to our second public comment period, where we will allow a maximum of 5 speakers on any particular topic. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And again, it's not the board's practice to engage in dialogue with speakers. When appropriate, we will follow up with responses on our website. I do have one person registered in person, Mitchell Harris. When you approach, please state your name, where you reside, and the topic. Thank you.
Good evening, Mitch Harris. I live in Whitpain Township. Currently serve as the girls varsity volleyball coach at Wissahickon High School. This was my first year in that position. I've also been, and why I'm here tonight is I'm really looking to start a boys volleyball program at the high school. I know it's been discussed in the extracurricular committee. I appreciate the efforts of Marshall Bleefeld and anybody else on the committee, as well as Jim Cairns and Kathy Dick, who I've been working with at the athletic office. I really think this is the kind of thing that the school district, the high school should do. We're looking to add something to get our student athletes involved. Many of the athletes, I did start a volleyball club last year, late winter, early spring. Many of the athletes that have come out do not participate in other sports at the high school. It's kind of a new population. It's a very diverse group of athletes. So we ran it in the spring. I also ran clinics all summer, 3 times a week, 3 hours each. We averaged probably 20 to 24 people at each session. One of the sessions was Saturday mornings from 9 to noon. So we're talking about getting kids up early in the morning. They did it in the summer when normally they want to sleep all day and play video games. We have a lot of support from student athletes. They see me at other events with my kids. My son's swimming now, and they're always like, "Are we getting volleyball? When are we getting volleyball?" Lots of parents. So I'm a volleyball fanatic as well as other sports. I coached WRA soccer for many, many years until this year, in fact, just because didn't have the time coaching the volleyball. For the girls, athletics build community. They build relationships among the students. They help with mental health. They help with physical well-being. These are the kinds of things I think the district looks to improve upon through all their efforts. I certainly remember the emails about what we're going to do this year to help support student mental health, eliminate, fighting at the high school, adding so many things during the day, this 5-minute session, that. I think this would only support that and provide a great outlet for our students. So it would provide room for probably 26 to 30 student athlete boys in the spring. There's also many girls looking to be managers. I got a huddle message from one of my girl athletes yesterday that she wants to do it, as well as a friend. So there was great crossover in the club and throughout the summer, both boys and girls participating together. And it's a sport that really, you can have that. The sort of physical attributes of the game really promote that. So I have many more things I want to say, so probably we'll see you at the next board meeting for another 3 minutes. But I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much for those comments. Katie, is there anyone registered online?
Yes, we have Veiled Diamonds, who I believe is Saida Settles.
Yes, please. You can go ahead and mute yourself. Take 3 minutes.
Hello, yes, hi. Hello, hi, I'm Saida Settles, and I reside in Whitpain Township and Whitpain Hills. I wanted to discuss the bullying. My son attends Stony Creek Elementary, and he is experiencing bullying. The bullying is being overlooked. I myself am in there Monday through Friday as a volunteer. The bullying is being overlooked, and the staff are not attending to the children adequately. The children are afraid to speak up, and they feel they don't have a voice. They are left to resolve issues on their own, while the staff seem to be either juggling multiple duties or not able to use proper discernment and intellect when dealing with children, often appearing aloof. The children need to be guided while playing the games. The fighting, bullying language is disturbing. The adults have to be adults and properly adhere to these children. Independence is great. However, leaving them to solve problems when each of the children have a different approach to problem solving, i.e. hitting, cursing, is not helpful. It's harmful. My son actually was attacked right before the break, resulting in a closed head injury, a concussion, a loose tooth, and 3 lacerations in his lip. This was very disturbing for me as a mom. My son is very kind. He's very compassionate. and he's just all around a good kid. And children have a right to be safe at school. So I think this is something that needs to be addressed and needs to be addressed immediately. These children are feeling very much unheard. And this also ties right into them being unheard about, and on the high school level, of the time they would like to go to school. We as adults have got to stop putting children off as if they do not have voices. They do have voices, they need to be heard, and they need to feel safe. And this is not happening on an elementary level, and I guess it's trickling on up to the high school level. And that's why we have this high suicide rate, and that's why we have this high trauma, these childhood traumas, these children who parents feel they're doing such an adequate job, and in reality, they're not. The stories I hear on a daily basis of the children being in the home with both wealthy parents, mediocre, and also less financially, it's the same. They're not being heard by their parents. Their parents do not have time to tend to them and to just hear their voices, and it's very concerning. Thank you.
Thank you for sticking around and providing those comments. Katie, is there anyone else registered online?
Yes, we have Claudine Paccio.
Claudine, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Claudine Paccio. I am a parent. I have a middle schooler and 2 high schoolers, 2 of which had talked today about the start school later that I wanted to talk about. I heard your guys' discussion afterwards. I agree that this is a huge a huge issue to take on and to make a change, but the change is really needed. To get the information out to parents, I know there's been many different avenues to do that. I don't believe that the information given before the kids took the survey, that was not positive at all. That showed all the things that could happen that were bad before they went and took the survey. So I believe that those surveys are skewed. There is, as Ronnie was saying, Dr. Wendy Troxel, who does a TED Talk that it would take less than 10 minutes for you all to look at and to see why this is such a big deal to do for our kids. Regarding getting other school districts, I think that's also a great idea to come in, the ones that have made the change. Radnor, we actually had heard from some parents from Radnor tonight that were going to come to support the students that were talking today. So I'm sure that they would come. Their superintendent is also a huge supporter. He saw success in a prior school district before he came to Radnor, and then it helped make the change at Radnor happen. They also had someone look at their bus logistics and looking at all the different concerns that all the parents have the same. I do think that that is one thing that this community panel did not look into. They looked into what could be the changes, but didn't look into what are all the issues that are all the same every time someone tries to do this, and how are we going to overcome that, and what are the creative ways that we can do that. Regarding the teachers, first of all, the comment on the childcare in the morning, it's much easier to get childcare later in the morning than it is at 7 a.m., which I'm sure is the concern for some of those teachers that was brought up. But going to talk to the teacher union, having the students present to the teacher union is something that we could offer up as well. I have a sister that is a teacher. She was a union rep for her school. It was in New York State, not local. But talking to her about this, they were all behind this as well, and the teachers. So letting the teacher union see all the positive effects as well is something that I think we can do. And lastly, about the athletics, not all 600 students are in sports all at the same time every single day. So that is something to quote, but also more sleep positively affects the sports. Kids, you'll see from some of the schools, I'll send you some information, that started later are performing better. And there was actually, I think it was Doylestown played against some school that just started later this school year. I heard this on the RASNIC Regional Adolescent Sleep Needs Coalition meeting, and the school that started later finally beat Doylestown for the first time in many years. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Katie, is there anyone else registered? Okay, who's next?
We have Carmina Taylor.
Carmina, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
So I just want to point out that I was listening to the online last time and I abruptly got disconnected again. So that makes like the 10th or 12th time disrespected as an alum, as a stakeholder. I just want to say that because 2023, since 2016, all the issues that have come across, all the issues that have come up today between bullying, racial issues, all the things that were discussed in the race and equity community event last month. These are all the issues that I've been talking about, asking the school district, asking the board members to be more active with the community. And I just find it really funny that now you're having conversations with people, finding out real stories of what's going on, listening to parents. Everybody's got all these issues, but when I was bringing them up in an altruistic way, I was being ignored. So I'm going to come back and be in person in the next meeting so I don't get to be abruptly cut off online. And I'm going to bring up all the questions that I've been asking about in terms of my right to know request. But I want to be on record that for over 6, 7 years, all of the things that I respectfully brought to this board and you've disrespectfully ignored me. Now people are speaking up more and bringing up all of the issues that I've been talking about for years. And the reality is the impact on the students that have been impacted by the board being very passive in addressing the real issues that are happening in all the schools. So when we talk about the kids are the most important people, look at all the kids in all these years that had all these issues that weren't addressed. So I'll be back in the next meeting. I'll come in person and I'll bring up all the other things that I wanted to say, but I've been actively listening all night. And I just find it interesting. Joe Antonio, all you that have been there in various leadership roles since I've been coming, all of these things are coming up now that I brought up 5 or 6 years ago. At this moment and just say the irony of where we are 6 or 7, 8 years later. Thank you.
Thanks, Carmina. Katie, is there anyone else registered?
There are no more speakers registered on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we move on to board comments. Any of my fellow board members have any comments? I'll just remind everyone that this Wednesday is our next listening session with the students at the high school. And that's at 1 o'clock. And Jim, same protocols last time, we meet in the office?
Yes.
Okay. So I look forward to seeing some of you there. Any other comments?
I have a quick question. What's the process to add an additional sport?
So normally there's an extracurricular committee. It would be discussed at the extracurricular committee. And then if it's simple, then the recommendation would come through there and it would become an action item for the board. If it's more difficult, then it would have to be reviewed and then probably re-looked at the extracurricular committee. And then at that point, come before the board.
So in the case of the men's volleyball, which was presented tonight or discussed tonight, since there's already a volleyball team at Wissahickon, I'm assuming that would be a relatively straightforward process, or is it not necessarily?
No. So the pickle with boys volleyball is that there's no concurrent girls team that's being proposed. So it's going to have to be looked at.
So,
Wait, you mean volleyball already exists? We would need another girls team for Title IX to make sports equal, correct?
It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's one of the things that's being looked at. Yes.
So just for clarification, there is support for a boys volleyball team. We would love to add the team. There are issues that have to be dealt with from a legal perspective that our solicitor can discuss if she'd like to, in order to add it. And so that's where we are right now. We're trying to do it. We want to add it in. I want to get it in sooner than later because the session, I believe, starts, or the season starts in the spring of March-ish. We'd like to be able to do it. There is full support for it. The question is, can we do it legally? There are considerations that have to be dealt with, and we're working through those with our solicitor.
Great, thank you.
So I would like for our administration to put together some information on what's going on with the bullying. I was under the impression we were doing better, but I only have a lens through my children who are at the high school. I don't have one across the board. What I heard earlier is a little unnerving. And I would like to understand what's happening, if are we seeing new trends? Do we need to kind of have a better assessment? We are belonging. How is bullying happening? Like, I just want to get a little bit more clarity on this across elementary, middle, and high school. Please. Please.
Thank you, Zeppi. Any other comments? Dan?
I was just gonna say, I'm not invalidating that comment at all, because what she said was very concerning, but my own experience at Lower Gwinnett has been positive. I haven't come across any issues that I know of so far. And my kids wear masks every day, and so they would be a prime candidate maybe for bullying, but I don't know. They report everything is people are really accepting and kind generally. So I hope that's the case mostly.
I would love for it to be the exception and not the rule, but still like to get a better understanding of how we're doing there. There should be zero bullying, in my opinion. I know that's kind of like utopia, but that's where I want Wissahickon to be.
I have a quick question regarding that. Do we bring parents into the picture when there is an incident like discussed? Because I think she did hit the nail on the head, is where like parents often are both working full time, they're out of the home, they don't see their kid a lot. And when they do, it's a rush. It's kind of a sad reality of our world sometimes. And so I feel like getting a parent involved in how they can maybe work through things at home for the child, because bullying doesn't come because a kid is inherently mean. It comes from pain, right? And other issues they may be facing. And so I just feel like, are we addressing that holistically? I know there's some things we cannot do. We cannot solve all the problems, but we can try to help the families maybe. I don't know how involved we are in that.
I think we're talking about a much larger issue. Ms. Settles brought up the fact that her child was bullied. Regardless of what anybody else says about their positive experience, neutral experience, somebody's been bullied. There are lots of kids who are bullied. There are kids who are bullied and never say anything. I've seen it firsthand. I've heard about it from lots and lots of families, experienced it in my own family when I had kids in this district. It is incredibly painful for these kids, and part of the problem is oftentimes kids who are bullied don't feel like they have a place to turn. They don't feel like there's a place to belong, because who are you going to tell? If you tell somebody who then tries to address the situation, you're a tattletale. And then you get bullied even further. What we have to figure out is a way to get at the root cause of why certain kids bully other kids, whether they think it's okay, whether they think it's funny, it's a question of power, whatever it may be. What kids don't understand is the lasting effect it has, not only on the person who is a bully, because that could go as they go on in life to think that that's okay. But what they don't understand is what impact that has on another child. Because if that kid is bullied and doesn't want to go to school, or doesn't do well on a test, doesn't feel like they can go to class, what if they're not comfortable being in school and decide maybe college isn't for me because I don't fit in? Well, that's a lasting impact on that child, and that's a bigger conversation. Ms. Settles is correct. I'm sorry she and her child have to deal with that. There are so many families I hear about who deal with the same issue, and we do need to talk about it. We do need to figure out a way to bring it to the forefront, to teach all of our kids, whether you are a bully or someone being bullied, that there is a place for everybody, and we need to figure out, in addition to all of the X's and O's in class, of how to be a good citizen. And so that's something that I agree with you, Zephyr, completely. I think we really need to delve into this. It really tugs at my heart, and not only as a parent, but as someone who believes that we can do something about this. But like anything else, it's going to take time.
Speaking of time, so for January 30th, do we think we can have the superintendent of Radnor come in via Zoom to talk to us?
Certainly ask him. It's a pretty heavy ask on Monday night, but okay, I can ask him. I mean, he's definitely statewide known for this, but
Yeah, if you
he's
can
also a
extend
superintendent
an
Monday night.
invitation, I understand he might not be available, but that might be a nice thing to add in. And then could we also look at the block of time or the school actual academic time and see if shortening the day is even a possibility and what that would mean? And we definitely should look at the AP and how that impacts, because I know we're an AP heavy crew here. You guys, too many AP classes. I'm telling my kids no. And see how but if Phoenixville figured out a way to work with their academic time period, can we please have a good understanding of that?
We can definitely do some. We wouldn't be able to talk Wissahickon specific on the 30th, but we can.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, meeting adjourned.